It is Thursday, of course. It's Gail Bell joining us, one of our parenting experts. We're tackling curfews and teenagers. And you were saying, Gail, in the commercial break here, that there are actually guidelines available for people to use if they want.
That's right. When we Google, we can find most things. But the American Pediatric Association actually has some guidelines out, which I think are really reasonable. So, for example, for 15, 16, so grade 10 going into grade 11, they're saying, between 10 and 11.
Okay.
Earlier during the weekday, obviously,
for
school, but on the weekend, 10 to 11, which I think if you talk to your community and your friends, that's pretty much what people are saying.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sure.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I remember as a teenager, I'm talking like 17 now, so this would have been like grade 11-ish, maybe grade 12. I think my curfew was 11 or 11:30.
Right.
Which I felt was a reasonable amount of time for me to hang out with my buddies and then be home, you know what I mean?
That's right. So there's a few things we need to remember, all of us parents need to remember, is one, nothing good happens after midnight.
True.
Golden rule with curfews is really nothing good happens after midnight. Kids get bored and then they start looking for things to do, and it's just not great. So second thing is you have to communicate. So involve your teenager in this and tell them why. So really, a curfew's not just about being mean, it's being respectful to others in the home. It's about responsibility. It's about scheduling your life a little bit. If you have to be on time.
Getting used to that
Getting
aspect,
used to, there's, you can't walk into
and also
work
getting enough sleep, too, right?
And that's the big one. And American Pediatric Association stresses that. So when your curfew is, you have to work back from when they need to get up. So if they have a swim meet, let's say at 6 o'clock the next morning, 11 p.m. isn't going to work the night before, right? So you have to, but if you talk with your kids about it and why, and set up things, and well, 10:30, all my friends are 11. Well, let's go with 10:30 for a while. You show us you can be responsible and respectful, and then we'll talk in a month or so. So you have to be reasonable.
I like that graduated curfew idea.
That's right. So, you have to also think about what kind of an event is it.
Sure.
So are you just hanging out with your buddies in the park, or are you at a sports function?
Yeah.
How are you getting home? Who's driving? Are we picking you up? So just get really clear on those things. It doesn't have to be this long meeting, but just go through these things and say, we're discussing it now so nobody gets upset with each other.
Of course.
Right.
And the worst time to discuss it, as you've told us many times, is in the heat of the moment.
That's right.
Do it before, and then it's crystal clear, right?
So make a plan with your child and then stick with it, because kids will negotiate till the cows come home. And if you negotiate with them, they'll just keep pushing it. And we hear this all this time. Well, their curfew was 11, but they came home at 11:20. So get clear and establish consequences before.
You establish the consequences from the get-go.
From the get-go.
So if you don't come home and you're not home by 10:30, 11, whatever the time happens to be, then the consequence is X. Okay.
Is X, and that's going to be different for every family. And the other thing is the phone is a good thing and a bad thing, because kids can text parents, I'm leaving now, but they can also say, oops, sorry, still be 10 minutes late. So just, again, communicate. I don't want to get a text at 11:01 telling me you're just coming home.
Exactly. Because you should be home and in the door.
That's right.
For 11 o'clock.
That's right.
Okay. And there's some good lessons. Like there's the responsibility lesson you touched on. There's the scheduling your life, because we all have to do it to a certain extent. And also, I think the respect for us in the house, because parents do think about the kids when they're not home yet, and head down on the pillow type thing.
Yeah, and we worry. And at 16 they're getting driver's license, and some can drive and some can't, and who's driving you, are we picking you up, all that. So as parents, we have to trust them. We have to allow them to grow up and take on the responsibility, but we can communicate to our teenagers that we're still nervous for their safety. Right?
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice. Thanks, Gail. I like that. Andy, as always, right, Gail? She's always talking about setting up the clear expectations right off the get-go.